little late spring Montana snow, just like a little icing on our sourdough bread. Cardamom. Have you ever enjoyed this beautiful spice in a baked good? It's one of my favorites. It's sweet, citrusy. We're gonna combine this with butter and sugar. In this video, we're breaking a big rule with sourdough bread. We're putting icing on top. Yes, I said it, icing. It is so tasty, sweet, delicious. I'm so glad you're here to join me. My name is Laura, and welcome to Morning Dove Haven. The foundation of this recipe is my Mythbuster bowl recipe, which I will link up above. We're going to start out by measuring our 10 grams of sea salt, and I like to use Redmond's real salt. I'm putting some hot water in the bowl to warm up the bowl to prepare for adding the water and the flours. Measure 270 grams of water. You'll need a total of 290, so reserve 20 grams on the side. I had just taken my extra flour out of the freezer, so I checked the temperature, placed it in the oven to warm it up a bit since my sourdough starter was in there, and yes, there it went. But I did save it, and the flour too. I'm just so lucky that that jar did not break. So next we're going to combine in a separate bowl our flours, 300 grams of all-purpose, 150 grams of bread flour, and 50 grams of our whole wheat flour. And to that, you'll want to add 4 grams of cardamom. Mix that well, and then we'll be adding the water. So go ahead and pour the water in and stir that up just until combined. Use either a bowl scraper or your hand. And then we're going to cover that up once you get that mixed up just to a shaggy dough. We'll cover that up, set it aside so it can autolyse for 30 minutes. 30 minutes of autolyse is over, and it's time to add our fully peaked 120 grams of sourdough starter. I just like to put those indentations in there to make it easier to mix in the starter. And mine is no longer at peak, as you might be able to tell, since it fell out of my oven earlier onto the oven door. I didn't get the rise I would like, but oh well, these things do happen. Once we're done mixing in those 3 ingredients, we're going to cover it and let it sit 15 to 30 minutes, whatever works for you. And then when that time is over, we'll go ahead and start our stretch and folds. You can do anywhere from 3 to 4 sets of stretch and folds. I typically keep it with 4 sets. And I like to do 4 or 5 stretch and folds in each. It really is up to you. I just really like working with the dough. We're done with 1 set of stretch and folds. We'll cover that up and let it sit for 15 minutes. And I like to do the first 2 sets of stretch and folds 15 minutes apart, and then the last 2 sets 30 minutes apart. in my measuring cup there, I do have some heavy cream. I did keep some of the heavy cream aside to use while working with the dough during the stretch and folds. So I actually had a little combination of the water and the cream, but it really wasn't necessary. Just add the heavy cream, sourdough starter, and salt to your flour water mixture. Just use the 20 grams of water that we withheld on the side to use for dipping your fingers into and mixing up the dough. So since this is a double batch, I'm transferring the dough into a larger container for bulk fermentation. And I'm going to just cut off some of the dough from the side and put it in my little measuring glass. It's actually an Old Spice container made of glass. And that's going to be my form of measuring just how high the dough has risen during bulk fermentation. I'm looking for 30%, 40% rise in the dough. So I'm going to put this rubber band around the jar. And so when the dough reaches that point, I am able to go ahead and take the dough out of the oven. Bulk fermentation will be over, and I know it is ready to begin laminating. So now we're going to make the inclusion recipe, which is the butter and the cardamom and the sugar. We're going to use 60 grams of softened butter, add a little speck of toast crumb on there, and add 8 grams of cardamom and 20 grams of sugar. Because of the butter, the bottom crust can get a little tough, so just keep that in mind when you're about to cut through your loaf of bread. Bulk fermentation time is over, and I'm really pleased with how the dough has risen up to the 30% marker there that I have. And it took about 3.5 hours to get there. Don't forget to take that dough out of your little measuring jar, and add it back to the lot of it. And then we're going to pour out the dough onto a floured surface. A lot of people like to use water, and that's great. But this recipe, we have a little extra moisture in it with the heavy cream. And I just feel it works better by using flour and floured hands with the lamination process. I'm cutting mine in half, as I said earlier, that this was a double batch. Use 2/3 of the butter and cardamom sugar mixture and spread it about on the open dough. And be sure to reserve 1/3 of that for after we have folded the dough into thirds. Going to begin rolling up the dough, and as you're doing it, try to tuck the sides in. Mine didn't go in all the way, so that's fine. Just go ahead and tuck the sides in after you roll it up into the ball. And then you're going to use that nice, gentle forward and back turning, gliding motion, and focus on tucking that dough underneath and closing the sealing up the bottom of the dough every time you drag it back towards you. Adding just a little bit of flour to the top of each of these bowls, and they will rest for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to give them a little shape again to pull on that skin, make the skin extra tight, and after that next 15 minutes, go ahead and turn them out into your basket or bowl, whatever it is that you might be using. If the bottom isn't sealed enough, just go ahead and stitch the top. We're going to have them sit just covered, resting on the counter for 1 hour, and then 1 hour in the fridge or overnight to assist with scoring. I took my bread dough out of the refrigerator after just under an hour's time because I wasn't able to bake it in the morning. We're going to put it in a preheated Dutch oven at 450 degrees. But we're going to turn the oven down to 425, have the dough bake for 40 minutes. And after that 40 minutes, you will lower the temperature to 375 degrees and bake an extra 10 to 20 minutes. The bread does have a tendency to darken a bit. Keep your eye on it in that last 10-20 minutes, especially if your oven runs hot. And now the big reveal. Very happy with how the rise turned out, even after the debacle with my sourdough starter deflating. And now the fun part, icing time. Start with 1 cup of sifted confectioner's sugar and add 2 to 3 tablespoons of heavy cream. You can use milk if you want a thinner consistency. And then add a 1/2 teaspoon to a teaspoon of clear vanilla. The clear vanilla will keep your icing more of a pure white color. Mix those two together, then add that with your sifted powdered sugar. Make sure your bread is cooled 3 to 4 hours before placing the icing on and be ready to enjoy. Let's see how this came out. Let's take a look here. So you see that bit of a swirl running through there? That's the butter and the cardamom and the sugar. And I can't stand it another second. I have to take a bite of this. So turn that on its side. That landed perfectly. Put that there. And I'm going to take, oh, I'm literally salivating right now as I'm looking at this icing. I'm gonna take right here where some of the heaviest icing is. I mean, I love my sweets. I don't know about you all, but oh my goodness. And sourdough, I'll take that any time of the day. I don't care what's in it or on it or who's with me while I'm eating it. But not too much. How's that? Take a bite. Oh my God. The sweetness with the cardamom is perfect. Absolutely sourdough bread for dessert anytime. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll get all my videos whenever I drop them. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you next time. Enjoy your bread.